So let me welcome everybody once again, especially the Living Discipleship group who's here. And I think there's many guests for the yoga retreat and personal guests here. So warm welcome on this warm day. And I'm going to read, you will see there's a reason, I'm going to read two whispers from eternities today. You know, this is because there's some people who are coming for the first time. This is a book that Yogananda wrote with many prayers and also guidance on how to pray correctly. And I had one in my mind, but then for certain reasons I added another one also. The first one I had in my mind is called Demand to Set Fire to the Forest of Darkness. I built a fire of devotion in the dark forest of delusion. Alas, the fire only smoldered. Then thou didst come and set fire to a few of my frailties. That fire quickly spread on, consuming the bushes of my prickly desires, my tall, towering vanities, and the thick underbrush of my arrogance. The whole forest of my darkness is blazing, and I behold only thy light shining everywhere. I thank thee, Father, for thy help. Help me thus always. Let me open a path of light for all to follow. And this was the whispers that I was going to use, but then I realized there's quite a few people who might be new to this path. And many of you probably have been here since 10 a.m. And right at the start, we did a fire ceremony where we said the fire burns everything. Then the Sunday service talk, which Ananta talked about, Jesus is talking about casting branches in fire. And now I'm talking about this conflagration which goes through underbrush and everything else. And I realized this is fire hazard country, you know, and if somebody is not well versed with the teachings of this path, it doesn't make sense that we are talking about everything burning, uncontrolled burns, the whole forest is ablaze, the underbrush is burning, and we are lighting fires. This is not the day to do that. That's, you know, we have a forum for the community, and just yesterday somebody posted the county guidelines and it said, don't light a fire. Don't try these things. So anyway, but there is a sweetness to this particular whispers, and I'll come back to it. And that's why I decided to retain it. But I decided to add one more also. And this is perhaps the most universal of all of them, because all the prayers inevitably are linked to this prayer. This is called prayer demand for self-realization. O cosmic vibration, reverberate through me as the cosmic intelligent sound. Teach me to find in thee the presence of the reflected Christ consciousness. O holy vibration, lead me to intuit that Christ in thee. O sound of Om, reverberate through me and expand my consciousness from this body to the whole universe. Teach me to feel in thee the all-permeating perennial bliss of the Supreme Spirit. It's always interesting to have to do a Sunday service talk right after Spiritual Renewal Week, because I think we've bisected and dissected and trisected all the aspects of the spiritual path, how to abide in God, which is the battle of life, and how to fight it, as well as anybody could. And so I didn't want to repeat what was covered so well last week. So I thought just to address one particular aspect. You know, in the last week's sharing, we all talked about warriors and fighting the battle and all the good character traits that are needed to do that. But there's also an aspect of the spiritual path which deals with how do we keep going when we are not necessarily doing as well as disciples. We all, especially many people, go through these situations where you know what you're supposed to do. Yes, you get up and meditate and do this and do that and pray and chant. But sometimes due to life situations, whether genuine situations, whether our own habit patterns, we start realizing we aren't doing what we should as disciples. And at that time, how we respond, how we take our next steps is as much a part of abiding in God. That word abiding is used oftentimes with the, I forget what it's called, with the preposition, I think, by, abiding by, not abiding in. And when used in these two ways, they have two entirely different meanings. Now, since mostly abiding is used with abiding by, we think of rules and guidelines. That's why abiding by 10 commandments, or by these Sevaka guidelines, or something else or the other. But abiding in is almost the opposite. There's no action that's suggested there. It's being in a particular state. And abiding in God is abiding in spirit. So the chant that the musicians chose was a very nice one for today, where it says, from this sleep, Lord, will you wake me? In thee I dive, in thee I rise, in thy sea. And then it says, in thee I am born, in thee I die, to live forever in thee. And that is a very good imagery for what abiding in God is, that this whole drama with its ups and downs is already in the ocean of spirit. And even when we err, even when we are not doing the things we should ideally be doing as top-notch disciples, whatever that means, we all sometimes have an idea of what being a top-notch disciple means, and we seldom include ourselves in that top-notch. You look at the other person, that guy is a top-notch disciple, but me not so much. It's better that way than thinking I am a top-notch disciple and those guys out there, So, but as Master used to tell Swami Kriyananda, inferiority and superiority complex, both are impediments on the spiritual path. But again, coming back to realize that even those phases when we feel disconnected from the spiritual path, when we feel that we are not necessarily being quote-unquote in tune, that we have equal right to demand God's power, God's strength, God's love be with us. See, sometimes because a lot of religion, even until today, and our path also is based on things we should be doing for self-improvement, the implication subconsciously comes in our mind that if we are not doing those things, then there is a distance between us and God. And knowingly or unknowingly, we start drawing lesser and lesser on that grace from the divine, which is actually universally, equally applicable or available to all of us. You might have noticed that when the purification ceremony happens, we don't first ask people to fill in a questionnaire. Have you been meditating every day? Did you energize today? Have you done your long meditations? Did you forget, like when I apply for my passport, it says, were you ever implicated in a court of law? And if I mark that, then I don't get my passport. So, but anyway, there is no such criteria here. Everybody can come. Everybody can utter that same prayer, I seek purification by the grace of God. And everybody receives that same words from the minister. The master says, open your heart to me and I will enter and take charge of your life. And for everybody, that ceremony ends with, by the grace of the masters, you are free. And it's important for us, if we really are abiding in God, the spiritual path is a marathon. There will be rough patches, but don't disconnect yourself. I see this oftentimes because I interact with so many students, when life hits them. They start communicating less. Everybody writes when they are doing well with their meditations, they're keeping up their kriyas. But as soon as their sadhana starts wavering or they have missed their meditations for a little while, they stop being in touch. And then, of course, after a long time, they come back because they know this is home, this path is home. But why? It's when we are feeling low that we should be demanding more and more the support and the grace that is always available to us. I remember a story. This is from the life of Padre Pio. And it might not apply to us necessarily in the way that story goes, but I think in one way or the other, that's what happens to many of us. In that story, somebody comes to Padre Pio and says, Father, I have been blind since my birth. And they know the Padre Pio is well known to be able to, intercede and miracles happen. And says, can you please intercede so that I can get my eyesight back? Even one eye would be enough. Can you please intercede that I get my eyesight back in at least one eye? And so Padre Pio says, well, I don't really have miraculous powers, but I pray and you pray and we always see what happens. But are you sure about one eye? And they say, yes, Father, I don't ask much. If even one eye is restored, I'll be very, very happy. And Padre Pio asks this question a few times and then says, okay, you pray, I pray, and let's see what happens. And then a few weeks later, this guy comes running to Padre Pio and says, Father, I can see. And Padre Pio says, well, Divine Mother or God is so gracious. So you can see perfectly, yes, Father, with both eyes? No, just with this one eye on the right side. And Padre Pio then tells him, next time, don't place limitations on God's power. And he was saying it was because he limited himself. I'm happy with just one eye is enough. Let God decide what we are worthy of or not worthy of. And this is a very important thing on the spiritual path, self-worth. Who are we to evaluate our discipleship? We have to keep doing better. We have to strive towards infinity. But same thing with these whispers from eternity. This morning I realized there are no tiered prayers. It's not as if this book has some prayers which it says, if you are sincerely meditating and doing everything on this path, then you can do these prayers. Like this prayer demand for self-realization, think about what it says. Reverberate through me and expand my consciousness from this body to the whole universe. And everybody can do this same prayer. And it doesn't say, well, and if you are not following any of the guidelines, any of the commandments, any of the principles, then here's some mini prayers for you. Lord, come to me as a little bit of peace, and that's enough. Everybody takes this book and they are given the same prayers, which the demand is for complete freedom, complete liberation. Your starting position does not matter. And this is something that we have to always remember. Don't allow ourselves to put fetters or create distance from infinity. We all do our best and we come up short. That's why that other prayer that I read, where very sweetly the seeker says, I built a fire of devotion in the dark forest of delusion. Alas, the fire only smoldered. This is what happens. We sit to meditate and sometimes the fire only smolders. Everybody is shown that the spiritual path can't be gotten to by self-effort alone. I have lived for 12 years now in a monastery, and that's where, quote unquote, all the hardcore meditators are, because you choose to let go of everything else and meditate. And I have seen firsthand, that's great, but that is not enough. Divine Mother shows every soul that, as it says in the discipleship vow, you can't ascend by your own power, but by the grace of divine love. And as Swami said in that reading, can an eagle soar without support from the surrounding air? But the air is there to support the eagle. That's the next step. That's why air was created, and the eagle was adapted for that. So, as it says here, alas, the fire only smoldered. Then thou didst come and set fire to a few of my frailties. So sweet. That fire quickly spread on, consuming the bushes of my prickly desires, my tall, towering vanities, and the thick underbrush of my arrogance. The whole forest of my darkness is blazing, and I behold only thy light shining everywhere. I thank thee, Father, for thy help. Help me thus always. And so whether we pray to God as Father or as Mother, it's when the going gets more difficult that we just need to let go sometimes of the steering wheel and say, we need help. And Gyandev referred to this last week when he talked about the sneak attacks. Some of you listened to him. But I say, more and more, let's get into the habit of doing this first, rather than first trying to do something by self-effort, and then when it gets too hard, drawing on divine grace. Part of abiding in God is to realize, well, that power is where our power also comes from. And why not start there? Why not draw on that divine grace first thing in the morning? Just as Yogananda writes here, I thank you for your help. Help me thus always. And I remember everything, I think every experience Yogananda wrote about. He had many divine experiences, but he chose to share a few of them in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And the first experience he had of Divine Mother, you remember he was very young. He had gone to this saint in Kolkata who was Master Mahashaya. And Master Mahashaya was talking with Divine Mother, and Yogananda just clutched at his feet and said, I want you to ask Divine Mother to come to me as well. And after an hour of that, finally Master Mahashaya said, okay, I'll make your plea to the beloved. And Yogananda ran back home, and he went into his little room, which is still there. And there he said, as he was meditating at 10 o'clock in the night, Divine Mother appeared to him. And the words she shared with him are very important for us to remember. Always have I loved thee. Ever shall I love thee. She didn't say, now that you are a master, I love thee. Or now that you are following these principles, I love thee. Always have I loved thee. Even when you are making all those mistakes, when you are forgetful of your true nature, when things were not going right, when you were acting in ways you shouldn't have acted, always have I loved thee, ever shall I love thee. And it's important to cling to Divine Mother, to God and Gurus more and more when we feel our own self-effort flagging, you know. I always tell myself, when sometimes I get into this game of wondering if I am worthy in Divine Mother's eyes, and I say, you almost got me there, Divine Mother, you know. You almost made me think that I have to act in a certain way to be your child. And I have to be a certain level of a disciple to be worthy of being your son. But you created me. And by that very act, I am yours, no matter my flaws, no matter my defects, and all the positives that I have also. And when I do that, I feel that there's that power. Divine Mother wants to free me. She, as Yogananda shared, she does not mind our shortcomings. She does not mind the fact that we are not yet perfect. We won't be perfect until we find Divine Mother. I mean, sometimes we put the cart before the horse, you know, and so it's going with our imperfections to Divine Mother. Suddenly, she takes all those imperfections away and makes us perfect. So I have here, let me see if I have here this. So this is a quote that I have here from an inscription that Yogananda wrote to Kamla Silva in one of her books. This is in the Shrine of the Masters. You know, you can see that inscription there on one of the books. No matter what dark territories you have to pass through, look steadily at the pole star of his presence. He knows you are trying to reach him. Only keep trying. Once you convince him, you will be there. The way is long. Let's hurry to his place. How many here have seen the movie, so this is a detour, The Lion King, the original one, in 1994. And sometimes I've shared my favorite scene from that great movie. You know, I saw that as a kid, and I don't remember much of it, but I remember a particular scene there where Simba is a little cub, and he and his playmate, I forget the name of the other cub, you guys might know it. Nala. So Simba and Nala, they are running around, and as mischievous children do, they venture beyond the boundaries that are set for them, and they are attacked or surrounded by these hyenas. And Simba has always seen his father, who the hyenas cower at, and he tries to enact his father's role. He says, oh, I can take care of this. And he stands there. How many have seen that scene? He stands there and he roars, and all that comes out is a yelp. And the hyenas start laughing. And then he roars again, all that comes out is a yelp. The hyenas start laughing. And the third time he roars, there's this resounding roar because the father has arrived. And this is the path to self-realization. Someday, in that same meditation seat, at that same time when you least expect it, this happens. It happens again and again. And you don't know why you would have a different meditation, but the Father or the Om sound is there. That meditation is so deeply thrilling, it leaves an imprint and it reminds us of the possibilities for all of us. We have to remain open to the possibilities. Abiding in God is realizing that Divine Mother is in charge, that we have no other option but to become self-realized, that we are hers. There's nothing we can do that will take that truth away. And then, yes, we have to improve our knowing. And so I want to end by reading Yogananda's definition of self-realization. And remember, the last part is about improving our knowing. And we often focus on that part, which is right. But let's not forget the first few lines as well, because those taken together, Master could have reduced or shortened that definition. He did not. Every word, every line is equally important. Self-realization is the knowing in all parts of the body, mind, and soul that you are now in possession of the kingdom of God, that you do not have to pray that it come to you, that God's omnipresence is your omnipresence, and that all you need to do is improve your knowing. Many blessings.
If you're seeking freedom in a revolution, or if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For once the guns stop blazing, you'll find it amazing how the world can drag on just as before. If you're seeking freedom in a marble mansion,
oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there.
For even when it's sunny, you'll be counting money, keeping up that showcase, your face lined with care.
And if you're seeking freedom on a throne of power,
oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there.
For though men all obey you, what if they betray you? Tense you'll be and waiting for foes everywhere.
but if you're seeking freedom, cast away desire.
Why barter like a beggar, you wealth everywhere?
For never can you buy it, grasp and you deny it. Freedom can't be hoarded, it's free as the air. And if you're seeking freedom, seek it on the mountains. Got sunlight on your shoulders, the wind in your hair. For there's no one can hold you, boss about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere. For there's no one can hold you, boss about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere.
I'm going to play Ancient Memories. It's from the Mystic Harp collection and composed by Swami Kriyananda.